Thank you everyone for joining us today for Putting Your Best Foot Forward Curb Appeal Edition. I'm excited because this is a course that every single person on your team can benefit from. From your leasing professionals to your service team members, everyone plays a part in curb appeal. So if today you were only able to have one from your team on this webinar, I encourage you to share the recorded version with the rest of your team at their convenience. Now, if anybody has any technical difficulties along the way, trouble hearing or just trouble seeing the screen, please email Sprout at watchyourbusinesssprout.com and we'll make sure that you guys get taken care of. So without further ado, let's dive in to Put Your Best Foot Forward Curb Appeal Edition. 7 seconds. In the time that it takes me to say this sentence, your prospect has already sized your community up. According to a New York University study, that's all the time you have to make a first impression. So that is why it is so important to put your best foot forward from the very start. I had the opportunity this week to attend a conference by Dennis Snow. He was a former longtime Disney employee that now trains on the Disney way in service-driven businesses. And I was just so impressed by the entire presentation. So I made some adjustments and I wanted to make sure to include some of the things that he shared. One of the things that really stuck with me is the phrase, everything speaks. Pay attention to the details because literally everything speaks to your customer. The question is, what is it saying? So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, are we seeing our community accurately? Or have you accidentally fallen prey to the rose-colored shade syndrome? Sometimes that can happen to us the longer that we are at our communities. So check yourself. Are we seeing your community accurately? Now, the true test comes with what I like to call the drive-by spy. And it kind of sounds like a shuffle, like the drive-by shuffle. But what it is you have to ask yourself, what kind of traffic do we typically get at our community? A lot of that depends on your location. Are you in front of a traffic light or maybe a stop sign or a bus stop where potential residents really have time to stop and get a serious glimpse at your curb appeal? Or are you on a busy street where people are just whizzing by? So again, things have to be a little bit bolder for them to notice you. It's really important to see your site through your prospect's eyes. So what I encourage you to do is hop in your car and do the drive-by spy. Another great idea is to ask maybe a spouse or a friend to do a test drive. Drive by the community and see how they feel when they drive by. What are some of the things that they notice with a fresh pair of eyes? Now you can use the rest of this presentation as a true blue test to see how your community really stacks up in the curb appeal realm. So here we go. Now, when it comes to curb appeal, we've heard all kinds of excuses. I don't have a big budget, or my community's really old, and that's why it doesn't look so good from the street. Well, here is the curb appeal smackdown. Regardless of your budget or even the year that you were constructed, all communities have one common denominator, and that is the ability to be sparkly clean. So make sure that you're not falling behind on this super basic. Litter is what Disney calls a visual intrusion. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on your community landscaping or how beautiful it is. If it's littered with dirty visual intrusions, it's not going to make a good impression. So remember, the common denominator that brings all communities down to the same level is the clean factor. Now, I love shoes, and just like a great pair of shoes can really make an outfit pop, our landscaping can be our hottest accessory. So we start by checking for the obvious things, like are the trees trimmed? Is the grass cut? Are the bushes manicured? Have we removed clippings from the ground? Do we have fresh, bright mulch? We know this can be especially challenging during certain times of the year, depending on what part of the country you live in, but it's definitely well worth the effort. Again, this can be your very best accessory. Now, if you're on a limited budget, you have to try to get a real bang for your buck. And this is a mistake that I see a lot of communities make. Let's say, for example, that you have a $100 budget to spend on flowers. And we know $100 just doesn't go very far. Well, rather than buying 10 $10 pallets and then spreading them around the community, I would encourage for you to buy 4 $25 pallets and concentrate them at the entryway. This splash of color is going to catch the eyes of those that are driving by, and it's going to be a way for you to really maximize your limited budget. So make good use of the resources that you do have. Now, the next area often gets overlooked, and it's our fencing and our access control gates. Now, don't let a crummy fence be a safety hazard or the reason why your prospect is on the fence about leasing. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. The next one that we talk about is our signage. A community's entry sign can be compared to a business card that literally lives on the street. So ask yourself, are you missing letters? Is there rotten wood in your sign? Is your landscaping covering it over where they can't even read it? Remember, this is your introduction to the world. So what is it saying? If you don't like your message to the world, you can look for affordable options for a facelift. Nowadays, you can get signs that are made out of foam core letters, a fresh coat of paint, fresh letters, fresh landscaping. All of these options will spruce up your sign. So here's an example of what not to do. Let's say that you wanted to call River O's, and where would you even begin to start? You have no idea. Yes, you could look them up online, but what does this say as your very first introduction to a prospect? So this is kind of a what not to do. Here are some examples of the do's. We think the preserve at Travis Creek did an awesome job. The Lantana Ridge, different types of landscaping, but all look very manicured and clean. And here are a couple of other great ones. The villages of Bella Vista and Sterling Springs. Great landscaping, bright colors, again, really taking care of signs, great business cards hitting the streets. Now we come to what I like to call the GPS to your front door. Now this week I was in Denver visiting communities, and there was this really neat looking community, so I hooked a U-turn to check it out. The problem was I never made it to the leasing office. They had this one small sign that read leasing office with an arrow that pointed nowhere. After several frustrated attempts, I gave up and I left. After all, I wasn't there for a scavenger hunt. So think about it. If they lost me, you can bet that they've lost prospects too. So when it comes to your leasing office and your directional signs, go big or go home. Don't lose prospects because of a rogue sign. So I encourage you, get in your car again and see how easy would it be for you to find your leasing office. And this again might be when you need to enlist the help of a friend who maybe has not been to your community or doesn't visit regularly. They might have a fresh perspective on how easy you really are to find. Up next is yet another accessory for your community. Yep, we're talking about banners. But just like any accessory, if you do too much, you can end up on the fashion's worst dress list. So many times we want to make sure that, our advertising messages says it all, that it's heard loud and clear. But we have to issue a caution here. When it comes to banners and bandit signs, this is not an area where more equals better. How busy are your banners? Think about this fact. The average customer today is bombarded with 3,500 advertising messages daily. So we have to remember the KISS principle. To keep it simple, silly. Again, here are some examples of some great do's when it comes to banners and A-frame signs. These two guys are courtesy to us from the sunny city of Los Angeles. And we just fell in love with how they're large, first of all, they're bright, and they're with a to-the-point message. So this community is still under construction, but again, they're already painting a lifestyle with how awesome their banners are. And here are a couple more. These guys, this is a shout out to Denver, and I had to take a picture because there you can see that this banner, they really utilize the space on their building. Bright color, simple message, so even if you're driving by, you get the point of visiting their website. And then this Now Leasing that was hung so beautifully on this building. Again, very cool, was in the same colors of the office, so I thought they coordinated the exterior with the interior. Here you see an example of a student housing community in Austin, and the picture's a little dark. That's my fault. But what I loved about this was that it's in a very highly visible area where they're highlighting their fall pre-leasing. And again, it's simple, it's to the point, and I love how well the banner is hung. There's no sagging banners here. Here are a couple other ones. I like the Great Places, Smiling Faces, Welcome Home. Great example of how banners, they don't have to just be for prospects. They can also be a great retention tool to remind residents just how much you appreciate them. And the Now Leasing banner, again, simple to the point. This was in an area where people were just whizzing by. They're not going to get a lot of information, so you don't have to list out all your amenities. You just want to get your phone number out there. These are a few more examples of great promotional signs to encourage drive-by traffic. I thought these were super cute. Love the Facebook thumbs up sign. And then the one on the right, this is an example of a little bit more of a grassroots approach. It fits into their monthly theme that they were marketing that month. And what I love most is this great call to action. It says, leasing office, turn now. So if somebody didn't know where they needed to turn, well, now they knew. And also you can see that the staff is having fun with this. So Curb Appeal really ties into all of your marketing and retention efforts as well. Okay, now we come to the number one offender in Curb Appeal: saggy, deflated, abandoned balloons. There's nothing fun about a saggy balloon that's been left overnight and forgotten. Now, on the flip side, we see that this is a big don't. But on the flip side, check this great eye catcher out. Look at what this can do for your community. Now, you might say, well, I don't have helium. Well, use petty cash to buy single-use helium on your busiest traffic days. I know this is not an affordable option for always, but let's say that you know that Wednesdays are your busiest days. Well, put your resources on that specific day. You can also invest in these hard plastic non-inflate balloons that are shown here, and I love these. I'm giving these a double thumbs up. I saw these a few months back at car dealerships, and now more and more our industry is taking note. They're a little bit more of an investment, but they last for the long haul. They look so alert, and driving down the road, I had to pull over and take a picture of these great balloons. So now that we've got the outside of our community looking really sharp, make sure that the inside matches. This is where we really have to pay attention to our common areas. How do they stack up? Your leasing office entryway is a biggie. That's where people are going to walk in and get a feel. So again, is it free from litter? Is it inviting? Is it welcoming? Again, check for areas that tend to collect trash. The mail center is a big offender just because people end up throwing things away. And don't forget to check the closed care center and the fitness center. I've shopped a lot of communities, and I'm telling you, there's some crazy things that get left in a closed care center, and it's just not what you want to have be your first impression when you're walking a prospect through your community. Now, if we advertise that we have a sparkling pool, make sure that it really actually does sparkle. This is especially important in winter months when things start to look dreary and dull. You want to keep your pool free of debris year long. You want to have your pool furniture neatly lined up and pop open some bright pool umbrellas, even if it's in the middle of winter. Create an inviting atmosphere year round. And I had to snap these pictures in Denver because this was a community that was really beautiful. And it was, last week they had this huge blizzard, so the roads looked dirty. But this community, despite the fact that, again, it was cold and it was wintry, it looked really nice. And on the left, you can see the maintenance man. He was there taking pictures, and I talked to him, and he said, yeah, that's just something I like to do, is just make sure and kind of keep documentation of what our pool looks like year round. On the right side, you see their landscaping. It's not blooming at the time, but it still looks clean. It still looks inviting. So I had to give these guys a double thumbs up. Now, another common area that sometimes gets neglected is our parking lot. There's nothing really sexy about a parking lot, but that doesn't mean that we should ignore it. Can you check these off your list? Is your parking lot freshly striped? Are there no major potholes? Think about that. As a prospect drives in, is the bottom of their car hitting and maybe making that bad impression? Do you have clearly designated spots for handicap and future resident parking? Make it easy to do business with you. And then kick it up a notch. Use your parking lot as a marketing and retention tool. Let me ask you, are you rewarding your long-term residents with designated spots? If you're not, you should be. I love when I drive into a community and there's a reserved spot that says for our 10-year resident or our 15-year resident. I mean, one of the things that does is it's a great benefit to somebody that's been loyal to you for the long haul. But on the flip side, think about that subliminal marketing message that it sends to prospects. For somebody to live at a community for 10 or 15 years, they really have to like the community. So again, a great opportunity to really kick it up a notch. Another thing that Disney does is they have a trash can within every 20 feet of in their park, because they know any more than 20 feet and people get lazy and they start to litter. And we've been really excited to see some communities take note and really provide more and more areas with nice trash bins to help residents get in the mode of keeping the community clean. All right, now it's time for the butt check. And what we're talking about are those yucky cigarette butts that get sprinkled around a community. Usually you just have a few apartment dwellers that really kind of make the place, they bring it down when you wake up and you walk the property, and there it is, this big nasty stack of cigarette butts. So make this something that you really are a stickler about, because for non-smokers, this is really something that is gross. It can be a big turnoff. So put your entire team on butt patrol. And you might want to call it something else, but we thought that was a catchy name. So what is your hook? When it comes to curb appeal, ask yourself, what is your hook? What makes your community stand out from the competition? And what causes somebody to be driving down the road and say, you know what, I'm turning into that community? Well, here are some areas where you can really shine. Pretty patios. Now, patios can either work for you or they can work against you. If your residents have mops and old furnitures and trash on their patio, well, you can bet that it's working against you. And this is one of those areas that if left unchecked can quickly get out of hand. Now, the next picture, I have to warn you, is a little bit gross, but I had to include it on here. This was a picture that was shared with me of an actual resident patio that basically just left their pet droppings out there for I don't know how long. This is really disgusting, and it just does not paint a good picture of your community. But it's another example of if left unchecked, this can happen. And we know this, that sometimes this just happens, in a short amount of time where things get out of control. So make this a part of your tour route to make sure that what your prospects see and what your residents experience is truly the best. So you can keep it fun. Do a quarterly prettiest patio contest and make the prize worthwhile so that people really want to have an incentive to participate. Maybe it's a gift card for a new patio set or for a great, landscaping, great plants or flowers. Whatever you feel would resonate with your residents, again, it's something that keeps it fun. Okay, building numbers are an often overlooked area that can be a quick eye catcher. With so many options, get creative. And we just like these examples. Here are a couple of more real life examples. On the left, we love what Avalon Apartments did. You can add a personalized insert right there by their apartment number for a resident to insert a picture or whatever else they want. Here's what I love about this. For children, families, with little ones, they may not remember where they live, or kids maybe after school, they might forget. But if you put a picture in there of their favorite Disney cartoon or something fun like that, or a picture of your family pet, again, that would be an easy way to say, hey, that's my apartment. And on the right, we like this for a resident event idea, the apartment number planter. You can provide the planters and have residents there with stencils so that they can, again, do something fun to showcase their apartment number. We just thought this was a great idea from Pinterest. Now, a splash of color is just what the doctor ordered. Front doors, they're an awesome opportunity to give your community an updated look. We love all the bright options shown here. So the front door, and again, you can take one building at a time to start updating. And don't just stick with the boring muted colors. We love how bright these things stand out, and from the road, they're sure to catch the eye of your prospect. This is an example of a howdy. This is a vinyl sticker, and actually that's what we have at the entrance to our Sprout office. And they have so many of these. On Etsy, you can get them for really inexpensive. I think the one I bought was $7. I love these little kind of unexpected surprises. You could put it at a leasing office, at the door of a model. You could give it for a move-in gift. And it just is a subliminal way that makes your community more inviting and helps it to stand out from the crowd. So at Sprout, we're a pretty laid-back, casual company. We thought that our entrance should also kind of express our personality. Now, how is your community stacked up so far? Have you passed the curb appeal check? Well, not so fast. You're not off the hook yet. If you're looking good in the daytime, the question is, how good do you look when the lights go down? That's right. We're talking about the night check. Every so often, visit your community at night and see what it looks like. This is an opportunity to double check your lighting. Are you missing light bulbs? Is there maybe an area that feels like a scene out of Jeepers Creepers? You won't know unless you check it after dark. So this is something that, again, this might make a good or a bad impression if somebody's driving by your community at night. It might determine whether they come and visit your leasing office the next day. Then there's the weekend check. How does your community look on its downtime? We know the weekends are very heavy time when people are looking for communities, looking for a new apartment home. So if you don't work on the weekend or your staff members don't work on the weekend, check it out. Drive by at different hours. Again, we want to get in the shoes of our prospects. So how did you do? Did you pass with flying colors? We hope you did. Were there some results that maybe you felt were less than stellar? Well, if it's the latter, don't get overwhelmed. Start small, one step at a time. Pick one area of your community that you're going to work on for the next 30 days. Get your team and your community involved. Figure out a way to make your resident events help out with the beautification of your community. Next month, pick another area. If you stick with it, you'll see a vast improvement as you work towards putting your best foot forward with your curb appeal. Remember, like the Disney principle says, everything speaks. So what is your community saying? Now, what we'd like is to be in a like-like relationship. Like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/sprouting. New ideas are always sprouting. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day.